So hello everyone, welcome Family Day. We're very excited to do a full day of programming for Family Day. My name is Chris O'Connor. I'm a learning program developer here at the Royal BC Museum. I run a program called RBCM at Home Kids every Wednesday at 11 live, and then they're all recorded and put on our Royal BC Museum YouTube page. So we have done over 40 sessions, so we have lots of great topics for you to explore if you wanted to explore on our YouTube page. I'll go to the next slide, Kim. Before we do anything here, before we do anything at the museum, it's really important just to ground ourselves in where we are. Where I am right now and where the museum is located is on the traditional territories of the Lekwungen-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. Here in Victoria on Vancouver Island, just take a moment wherever you are to think about where you are, what traditional territories, what Indigenous territories are you on now? I am so grateful to be able to live, learn, and raise a family on this land. So that's incredibly important whenever we do anything here at the museum to know where we are. So then the next slide is just a reminder of what the day is. So we had earlier today, we had just last hour, we had behind the scenes of our new orchids exhibition. Today, right now we're doing the animal portraits. The noon hour, family recipes with Kim, whose voice you might have just heard. Walk in the Park is an outside program. We're going to be doing at Goldstream Park at 1 o'clock. And though it's sold out now, some of you might have tickets already, but we're going to do a virtual IMAX screening of humpback whales at 2 p.m.
Wow.
So full day of programming.
That's great.
Yeah. This is the first time we're doing something quite like this. So we're all excited to do this. So we're thinking about families, thinking about family day and animal families. And behind me, there are owls. This is a sea lion skull. But this is a sea cucumber. So there's so many different kinds of animals that are in BC, and so many different animals that have really interesting animal family structures. And this animal here is a quail, a California quail, but we see them up here in BC too. And I wanted to highlight this one because when I was with my kid, we were this summer went up to Penticton, and we saw these birds running across the road, and my kid had never seen a quail before. So the kid was really excited about it, and we did a lot of research about what a quail is. Quails have very interesting family structures. So they have their immediate family, but then they live in big family structures, sometimes as many as 75 birds all together. And it's a covey, it's called a covey of birds, which sounds cozy, I think. And quails like to really be down low to the ground. What's interesting about them, many of the things that interest, there's so many things, but one thing is that they run. They can fly, especially if they're spooked by something, they can fly really quickly, but they love to run really fast. And the fact that they are social and they want to be around each other and other family groups is really, I think is very lovely. So when we think about family, especially on Family Day, so many ways to think about families. Families have so many different sort of structures. It could be really close friends that feel like family. It could be extended families. There's so many different ways that families look, and we honor all of those families here at the museum. And we're glad that you're here in whatever family group. So we're one big covey today. And Jeri and Liz and Kim and I are also part of that covey. So what we're gonna do is so that's a quail, but we're gonna explore today the woolly mammoth at the museum. And if you haven't been to the museum before, up on the second floor of the Royal BC Museum is our Natural History Gallery. And as soon as you come into the Natural History Gallery, you see this amazing animal that's a woolly mammoth. So I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna show you that, but then also Jeri is gonna show us how to draw a woolly mammoth. So as I'm getting this set up, Jeri, do you wanna just let people know what they'll need as
Sure.
materials? And then as soon as I'm gonna put on my mask, I'm putting in my ear pods, and then I'll see you up there.
Okay. So today I'm going to be using just some washable markers. These are the ones that I happen to have at my house. So whatever you have, and you might want a pen, like just a writing pen, like a ballpoint pen. You'll need a paintbrush and just a little container of water. Some things maybe afterwards that you might like, or some crayons or some pencil crayons that you could go back in and add detail. So we're going to create a painting, a drawing and a painting with our markers. So when I work, I'm not worried about making mistakes. And you're going to see I'm not going to do a pencil drawing. I'm going to ignore any lines I don't want. And the magic is then when we add water, any lines you don't want will just wash away. So I don't know if Chris is quite there.
I am here.
There you are. Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're perfect.
Okay, great. So for those who have been to the museum, this is our main lobby. That's our box office staff right behind me that can't hear me. That's why they're not waving. And I'm about to go up the escalator here. So I'm just going to flip my camera around so you can see what I'm just going to flip my camera around so you can see what I'm looking at. So I'm going onto the escalator now. Here, I'll show you the lobby there. So we're walking up the escalator. Oh, there. And as I said, the Natural History Gallery is on the second floor. There's a security guard. And we're gonna walk, and the exhibition that you, just prior to us, the behind the scenes tour was this space here, which will be our orcas exhibition. And then down the hallway here, as I promised, there's the star of the Royal BC Museum, and that's the woolly mammoth. This whole hallway is all about the long history of this land that we're on in a natural history way. And this is our woolly mammoth. So for those who have been here before, you might remember that just to the left here, there's one of my favorite things about the museum is there's actual real ice. It's very cold. So you can touch the real ice, and actually one of the visitors is now going over to touch it. And then this is the woolly mammoth, which sometimes people ask, is it real? And which is a very good question. And it actually is not real. It's made with different materials. And the hair actually is made not from woolly mammoth hair, but actually from musk ox hair. But it's made to look like a woolly mammoth. And actually at the museum here, we do have some things that are real. So this is a real mammoth tusk and real mammoth teeth. But what you see up here is constructed to make it look like it. And you're in the environment of the woolly mammoth. So Jeri, when you, as an artist, when you're looking at a woolly mammoth like this and you want to draw it, what are some of the first things that you look at?
Well, what I always do is I look for the shapes first. Because I find if I can break something down into shapes, then it's really easy to add the lines. So I would start looking maybe for where I would use a circle and where those circles might be. There's quite a few of them in this piece. And then you could go on from there, and then you could start, I would start looking for lines. Like, I don't know, I see kind of a letter C in one of the tusk, and then maybe a backwards C in the other. And then I can kind of start putting things together. I think the most important thing to remember is that as artists, we're not trying to make it look exactly like what we see. We're trying to make it our own unique vision of this. So that allows us to draw however we want to draw. Maybe you're really interested in the tusk and you're going to exaggerate those and make them really big. Or I particularly am fascinated with what's happening on top of the mammoth's head. I don't know if you know more about that. It almost looks like he's wearing a little party hat. So maybe those are the things that you find interesting that you'll want to focus on. So it'd be totally.
And I'll just say that the woolly mammoth turned 40 years old last year, and we did have a birthday party for this woolly mammoth, and actually he did have a birthday hat on. So
Nice.
So do you want to get started? And
sorry. Okay, yes, I didn't know if you wanted to talk some more.
no. At the end, if we have time, we'll ask some questions or answer some questions. But I think is it helpful, Jeri, just to have for me to have that there just to show?
Your angle could not be more perfect because it matches the photograph I pulled off the Royal BC Museum.
Okay.
I guess my only question is can people see me or not? But you'll let me know, I guess, in chat if that's the case.
And actually, Kim can spotlight your video. Oh, and then also from time to time, Kim just come out just so they can see the mammoth.
Great.
I'll do that. We'll start with the mammoth up and then we'll cut to you, Jeri.
Okay. All right, so if everybody can see and they don't need to cut, I mean, if they can see the mammoth, that's probably even better. So I'm gonna start with kind of a lighter brown marker. And remember I said I was gonna find those shapes. I know that I have kind of an oval shape for his head. And I'm gonna start with that oval shape. And I don't know, I'm hoping you can see that color. I might go ahead and use a dark color, just so I know for sure you're seeing what I'm drawing.
Oh, that color's better. Thank you.
Great. Is that, or I can go to a black. Would that be better, Kim?
No, this looks good.
Okay. So from there, the next thing I'm going to pay attention to are those tusks, because I feel like that really makes the mammoth. And I noticed that the one, if I put a point right here, and I should say that I'm drawing pretty quickly. So I know that it might be too quick for some of you. So think of this as a demo, and then you can go back and you can do it slower, because it's fun to take our time when we draw. But I'm gonna.
But Jenny, Jeri, can you? It's possible for people to be drawing while you're doing it too.
Yeah, feel free to draw, but don't get frustrated if I'm going faster than you need me to. And also remember that it's recorded, so you can always go back. So I know from here, I'm looking at the bottom of my oval is kind of where that tusk ends. So I'm going to make that backwards C type shape right there. And then I know on this side, if I put a point right there and I come around, that's kind of where that other tusk is coming, isn't it? And right now I just have them as lines, because the other thing I know coming off my oval and going down, I'm going to kind of make the letter J. Backwards J, but the letter J all the same. And that starts to give me those shapes I need. From off of that, I know there's an I, and I'm going to put a little lump off that side. I'll even put some eyelashes on it, because there's the other eye coming kind of off that nose. When I come up here, I'm going to add a little triangle, and then I'm going to add that tuft that I like so much off his head. Remember, any lines I don't like, when I begin to put water to this, they're going to wash away. So I know now that I probably want this to come off a little bit. And I'm guessing right here that this is a bit of his ear that we see. You see that? So I'm going to throw in an ear there. So kind of getting where I want to go. I know that the nose kind of almost meets up right where that tusk is. And I'm going to go ahead and add another line and start to make my tusk big. And then I also know now, if here is where my my trunk is, I can also, and I think I might go around both sides of this one to kind of get my tusk. So there are my two tusks. You still with me? Now I noticed I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to connect and make a tusk there, because I know that I see a little bit of his foot right here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Now I think, remember we were looking for circles? I'm going to find another oval. And if I look, it kind of starts where this eye and ear is and kind of comes like that. Kind of get a shape like that in. So if I'm here, the trunk, I look over about here, there's that other foot. And I know I can come up. I'll throw some woolliness in here. I don't know, is that a right word for that? And I've connected that. Didn't you say that they're kind of like the elephants, Chris?
Yeah, they're related for sure.
So I know
but more woolly.
I know the elephant has some toenails, so I'm going to kind of put, even though I can't really see them here, I know that I might want to put some toenails in there. And then I'm just going to connect that leg right like that. And then I know off the back of this is that other leg coming somewhere like that. Now, it's kind of funny looking. It does have a tail, doesn't it? I know we can't see it, but I believe, does the mammoth have a tail?
Yeah.
I'm going to throw a tail in because I would like a tail. Now I noticed up here that like there's another lump here that kind of connects to that leg. So I can kind of add that lump, and then it kind of comes straight down. So you might want to add another leg here. We can't really see it, so I'm probably not going to add that. So that's, I'm going to ignore. And I'm going to change to this black pen because I want to put in some background. Maybe put some like rock stuff in here. And what we could do is, now I'm going to sit there and think about the colors that I see. I'm going to think about maybe going in, I know this sounds crazy, with some orange, because I notice here, and I'm using the side of my pen right now. And I'm also thinking about, I want to kind of come into this direction and make it rounded. So I'm looking at where I see maybe some lighter color on my mammoth, definitely around the eye. Where else might you see it? I kind of see it over here. I might end up coming a little bit out further on my drawing. And I kind of see it in here. So I'm going to add a little bit in this area. And the other thing I notice when I look at it, so I'm going to use this with the black. I notice that there's almost like a curved line where that wool comes. So I'm going to add like a curved line here. Remember, all this is going to kind of go away. So don't worry too much about what's happening. I'm going to come in with a light brown now. I'm going to build up some color. Again, I'm using it on the side. I'm going to kind of come in. I think I will go like this on my nose. And then I will do maybe some of the dark brown that we have. I know that this is going to be dark brown, don't I? And I know that maybe I'm going to see some dark brown in some of these areas. I'm not coloring that carefully, am I? But I'm thinking about direction of things I want. Now, your paper is probably not as big as mine. So I'm going to quickly start putting stuff in here because I want us to get to the good stuff. One of the things I know is that if I use the black in areas where things might be overlapping, where things are shaded, I'm going to add my black there. Again, oh, I know that this is darker, so I'm going to add some there. I'm going to start coming in. You all are probably thinking, oh my goodness, Miss Jeri, this is scribbly, but it's okay. I am still thinking about the direction I'm going, adding those browns. And I'm going to add, finally, the real brown over top. Remember that ballpoint pen I said that I had? I'm gonna, oh, I think I'm gonna throw, I noticed that the tusks have a kind of cream in them, so I think I might throw a little yellow, not a lot, into my tusk. Now that ballpoint pen I have, I'm gonna go through now and I'm going to go over and just draw the shapes I like. So I'm going to ignore anything I don't want. And I'm just putting an outline to it. If you happen to have a permanent black marker, like a Sharpie or something, you could do it with that. But I'm just using a regular writing pen. Again, I'm not too worried, but I just, because when I begin to paint this, all these lines might go away. So I want to add some ballpoint pen now. I'll put a little line here for the background. I'm looking at that great environment, and I think for fun, I'm going to take a couple of markers, and I love the way the sky kind of goes like a curved shape like this. I think I'll put in some lines for the sky. Oh, I like drawing with two pens. I wonder if you're going to enjoy it. And then I might, oh, I see a little bit of pink down here, put a little pink in this area. And I see some greens too. So I'm gonna throw some greens in like this. Again, I'm drawing with two different colored greens just to put in some color. Now, if I was not worried about time, I might go in and add some more paint or marker to this, but I am a little worried about the time because I wanna show you the rest of it. So I'm going to stop now, but you are going to take as much time as you want, okay? So at that point, I'm going to grab a wet paintbrush. And now the thing I want to remember is that if this is wet and I touch this, it might bleed together. That's okay. You might get some really cool stuff, but you might want to give one area a chance just to dry a little bit before you go in. And I'm going to start mixing these colors. And I'm going to come out because he's kind of furry. And you can see if I had spent more time adding markers, I would have gotten something much more vibrant. But even still with what little markers I've used, it's going to work. So the thing is that you don't want a puddle of water. Because my paper is upright, it's going to drip, and that's okay. That will just add more interesting things to my piece. I'm going to be careful around that tusk right now. I'm going to do his hat. And look at how I'm bringing it up over. And I'm going to come over.
So, Jeri, there's a question, are you using a canvas or just paper?
I'm using watercolor paper. So if you happen to have printer paper, you're going to want to use less water because the printer paper doesn't necessarily like water very much. If you have like a cardstock paper, you can add a little more. But you can see, look at my mammoth is becoming quite painted, right? I remember that yellow I added. I'm going to kind of go over that. And you can see now that, oh, but you can also, I guess what I'd like you to really notice is that any of the marker lines I didn't like begin to disappear. I'm gonna throw his tail in. Throw some green in. I wanted to see if I can get some of my woolly mammoth to bleed into my background because I had it happen before. It was kind of interesting. Now I am using that direction I used with my marker to throw in my sky, because the sky, like if you look at that, what do you call the exhibition? Is it a diorama? Is that what kind of what that would be called, Chris?
Yeah, this would be called a diorama.
So if you look at the diorama, you'll notice that sky looks like it's kind of coming in a swirl. So I like kind of curving around them. And I like this because it kind of brings your eye in to the woolly mammoth. But there you go. I have quickly done a woolly mammoth. What you need to remember is that until it's very, very dry, you can't go back in with your marker or you'll ruin your marker when it's wet. But you could go in with your crayon, and if you wanted to add, maybe you say you lost the eye, you could come back in with your crayon and start adding another layer of color. I could also do that with a pencil crayon if I wanted to. I could come in and maybe I want to get some of those lines in, but you can definitely come in. I find that when I'm doing something that's furry, instead of doing my line straight, I like to go back and forth when I draw. When I go back and forth when I draw, it automatically gives me some fur. Some other fun things, if you're enjoying this, you can use the back of your paintbrush. If I went in with the back of my paintbrush and I scratched into my drawing, and I would think about the way the fur might go, and then I add water on top of it.
So Jeri, you're talking about the handle of the paintbrush?
Yeah, this side. Like sometimes people think that this is the only part of a tool of a paintbrush, but this can be a tool too. If you scratch into it before you put the water on, what will happen, and I did a practice one that's much smaller. Can you see all of these dark lines? That's created because what happened was the water and the paint will, when you make a scratch, it will, when it dries, it kind of congregates in those scratches you make. So that's—
Can you bring it a little closer to your camera?
That's another way to begin
yeah.
to add texture. So you can see all those scratchy lines. That really makes him look woolly. So this one, you can see I've taken my time and put more marker on it. And you can see the color difference when you do that, right? And you can see also at the bottom, I went in with my purple crayon and my blue crayon and my orange crayon. So you don't have to use the colors that you see on the woolly mammoth. If y'all wanted to make a silly woolly mammoth, what color might it be? If I really loved the woolly mammoth, what color might I make it? I could make it pinks and reds. I could make it yellows and oranges. Maybe my favorite color is purple, and I feel like it's a really chilled woolly mammoth, and purple to me kind of is a calming color. You could add that. So it's totally up to you what you want to do when you create your woolly mammoth.
I'm also thinking, Jeri, just because of the what day it is with Family Day, that if you could just make a smaller version on the same paper as a kid woolly mammoth with a grown-up woolly mammoth, and even just having your two versions together made me think of a family or the beginning of a family.
I could absolutely cut this out and glue it in, and I would have mom or dad and kid or grandpa or grandma. Like, oh, it could be so awesome. Think of all the woolly mammoths you could get in.
Cannot have too many woolly mammoths.
You could never have too many woolly mammoths.
So thank you so much, Jeri. That was amazing just to see that what I'm looking at on the screen sort of come to life on your paper. And the thing about drawing too is it makes it much more expressive and alive in a way through the act of drawing. That is, it was fascinating just to see that unfold.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, yeah, no, it was fun to learn to draw a woolly mammoth. I have to say, I've not drawn one before. So I too like break it down to shape and try to figure out what I was making.
And I love the tuft on the top of the head. It's very stylish. So
Thank you. Yes, I exaggerated that because I'm quite fascinated about what this is.
yeah. Kim, just a time, I can't see the time. Do you want to do a time check? And if there are any questions during it, do you mind letting us know?
Sure, it is 11:30. I don't see any questions, just lots of wows and thanks. Deborah from Facebook. We had Winona on Facebook who said her dad is the heavy equipment operator who found and dug the woolly mammoth skeleton out of the banks.
Wow.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Ella's wondering, Chris, why does the woolly mammoth have fur? That is from Elle.
Well, it's the woolly mammoth was around during the Ice Age. It was very cold. You would think in Victoria it snowed here the last couple of days and it was very cold, but then it was very, very cold. So the layers of fur would really make the woolly mammoth be comfortable during very cold weather. So it was a way to be comfortable and to survive in really extreme environments.
There is a question asking, what is a woolly mammoth?
Yeah, and the thing I didn't mention that in the beginning is that woolly mammoths, though they're related to elephants, are not elephants, and they are also not alive anymore. They went extinct several thousand years ago. So they were large mammals that were here in British Columbia, and we know because we have found tusks and teeth of them, but they are not here now. So that's kind of cool, just to know that there are these animals here that are no longer here, but we know about them from what we find. And they lived and were the biggest animals that you probably could find on the tundra of what is now British Columbia during the Ice Ages. And I see that how long can they live? They usually would live to about 70 or 80 years old. But sometimes, like all animals, sometimes a lot shorter, but generally around 70 years. Great questions, everyone. Sorry, Kim, you were about to say something?
In addition, Tyler is wondering, how long ago did they live? Were they hunted by dinosaurs?
Well, they lived they were actually around when people were here, not dinosaurs. So dinosaurs were millions and millions and millions of years, like 65 million years and longer. Woolly mammoths around here is more like tens of thousands of years ago. And it was around probably like 7,000 to 8,000 years ago that they went extinct. But there were different species of mammoths and they all went extinct at different times. But it was actually partly because of people and partly because of climate change that they went extinct. But if you come to the Royal BC Museum, you get to hang out with one, which is always fun. It's one of my favorite places here at the museum to hang out, because where else can you hang out with a mammoth? So we'd love to. Yeah.
Sorry, finally, Stephen says it was fun. He said, let's do it again, maybe with the orca exhibition.
Ooh.
Yes, that sounds great. Yeah, and I was thinking the first behind the scenes tour today for Family Day was with something that's new, that is just coming to the museum. We're just making, and this is with something that is very old thing here at the museum. So, and coming up next at noon, that voice that you hear is Kim Goff, and she's going to be leading a session around family. So definitely join in at 12, either on Zoom or Facebook Live for the next session that starts pretty soon. So actually, Kim needs to get set up for that. So again, thank you so much, Jeri. Thank you everyone for joining in. Happy Family Day, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Enjoy Family Day. Bye, everybody.
Bye.